Grand Readers. Here we are again, another time to interview some very interesting people. And I don't know, maybe you're like me. You've wandered in a either a drugstore or a beauty shop, looking at all the different hair products, trying to find that magic answer to help us with the thinning of hair and all of that nonsense. Well, I'm really glad to let you know that even though we've spent decades as grandparents hoping to invest in product that'll work for that thicker, fuller hair, we have Dr. Brett Bolton here today, and he is going to offer us a refreshing perspective. Many people don't need surgery. I think that's what we're going to hear about if they use smarter daily habits. And, we don't need to keep chasing our youth. Let's jump right into it and find out what this miracle man has to say. Welcome, Dr. Brett.
Hi there. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So is this just aging or is something I'm doing that's giving me all of this loss of hair?
So there's lots of different things happening to different patients, whether they're males or females, that could potentially be causing hair loss. One of the biggest factors for females in particular are they're going through menopause a lot of times, and they're aging and they're having hormonal changes. And that's very normal and typical. And a lot of times, simple adjustments of hormones can be helpful, or you can just let it go and live your life. And so there's lots of different ways to approach it, depending on how you want to approach it.
Hmm. So, I've always heard it's hereditary. I mean, blaming hair loss, it's your father's, it's your grandfather's father. It's all of these different things we've heard, but you like to point out that it's also environmental factors like hard water. So for someone who's lived in the same home for decades, could something as simple as the tap water be contributing to thinning hair?
So the answer is yes, but it wouldn't necessarily be permanent. I can just tell you from my own personal story. I live here in Fort Lauderdale, and literally when you put the bath water in, you can see it has a green tinge to it.
Hmm.
Um, and the lather of the soap's not good, and the lather of the shampoos aren't good, and you can see the difference. So one of the simple things we did was put on a filter system in the house. And that once it cleared through all the pipes, it was much easier on the hair, and you can see a noticeable difference. And so that's a simple thing people can do is use filters. But what I was going to say is men and women are losing hair for different reasons. Men have genetic hair loss 99.9% of the time, and it's a
Hmm.
straight hormone conversion where the testosterone in their body is converting into something called DHT, and that's causing a sebum to build up and miniaturizes the hair follicle and then keeps the hair from making its way through. So with women, the main thing we see in my practice is hormonal changes. However, it can be a slew of other things. It can be more serious things like collagen vascular disorders, uh, like we talked about, thyroids, pituitaries, different, immune system diseases that could be more serious. But also, females can have that genetic male pattern hair loss. And that, of all their choices, is the easiest to detect and the easiest to prevent. So, for a simple remedy, if you have a genetic hair loss for a female, you could get on a minoxidil. It's just a vasodilator that helps to open up the blood vessels. That allows more minerals and nutrients to get where they need to go, makes a better environment for those miniaturized hairs to make their way through. So that's a simple remedy that can be done for female patients that are experiencing the male pattern hair loss.
Well,
Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but dig a little deeper into what that product is. Is it an injection? Is it a pill?
so
And would you spell it so that
yeah,
those that are
absolutely.
listening?
So the name everyone knows about is Rogaine. Rogaine,
Ah,
it's been out since the 70s. I know you're aware of it. It was when it came out in the 70s, it was like 300-400 bucks a month, and they didn't even have it for females. The percentage that they started with was a 2% monox. It's the ingredients minoxidil. That's the brand name Rogaine. So minoxidil is Minoxidil. And the 2%, what we used for men, They now use a 5%, and they now call the 2% female minoxidil.
Okay.
So if they are experiencing a genetic pattern hair loss, which is easily detectable, then they could use the minoxidil twice daily to help prevent future hair loss, the females. Men can also use minoxidil to help prevent future hair loss, but we have something that's even a little bit better than that. The brand name is Propecia. The ingredient is finasteride, and that's a 1 milligram tablet that the men would take once a day to help stop that genetic conversion from taking place, which helps to prevent them from future hair loss.
And going back to both men and women, is this topical? Is it internal? I'm still not
I'm
understanding that.
sorry. So the minoxidil is a topical solution that's applied twice daily. So you would put it on once in the morning after you shower and then once at night before you go to bed. The finasteride is a pill that's oral form, so you would take oral pill daily for the men. Now, I have some women that if they're past, the gestation period where they can't have kids, I prescribe them the finasteride, but I make sure they understand that it's considered off-label because it's not meant for women. But I do have good experiences with prescribing it for female patients. The main thing we're concerned about is if they were to have a baby, it could cause fetal malformation. So that's why we really are afraid to give it to the women. But once they're past that stage, I don't see any negative of giving a female that.
What about side effects other than
So
that?
for females, I'm not familiar with really any side effects that they see. Men can get the main one we see with men is a decreased libido. But it's pretty rare I see it if the patient's following the instructions as to how I direct them to take that, which would be I have them start off slowly, maybe every other day initially to allow the body to adjust to it. And then I bring them up to every day once the body has an adjustment period.
Okay. Well, many grandparents, Brett, have been coloring their hair, blow
Yes.
drying their hair
Yeah.
for decades. Okay.
Yes, they have.
Perms. At what point does normal grooming turn into long term fossil damage, and especially later in life?
That's a great question, and it depends on what they're specifically doing. So a lot of females in particular, they're going to the beauty salons, they're going under these hot hair beds, they're getting the curling irons, they're going with the hot hair dryer. All of that can cause brittleness and cause the hair to be more sensitive to breakage, and especially as they're having hormonal changes. In addition to that, that a lot of those products can definitely create more problems for the hair as far as it becoming abrasive and breaking. So I always recommend like instead of using high heat, use like a medium heat. And simple
Okay.
things like when you come out of the shower, I was telling you I have a 7-year-old daughter, so and then I have boys. My boys, I'll gently rub their hair. My daughter, I take the towel and I gently pat it. So I'm not trying to be rough with my daughter's hair because it's long, a little more fragile. I don't want to create knots. So that's a simple thing you can do as well, is make sure you're not putting a lot of high heat. When I use the hair dryer with the hair, I always have it on medium so it's not blasting that heat on there. I'll notice that her hair will become a little more coarse and brittle when I do that. And also I've noticed it also even creates more split ends. And those split ends can create damage over time if they're not properly trimmed. That's another simple trick. I always make sure to cut those little dead ends off the bottom of her hair, and then her hair comes out stronger and more beautiful. And that's simple little tips that really make a difference, in my opinion.
Well, I love to. You touched my heart to hear you do your daughter's hair. I mean, come on, I'm going to give you a big love, right?
Thank you. Oh my, I am really particular about it because I'm like, what are you going to do? Show up to school with knots in your hair and your dad's a hair transplant doctor? How embarrassing. I can't have that. Yeah.
Oh,
So
you are adorable. I love it.
thank you so
Golly.
much.
So I'm curious then, and I don't know, just probably has nothing to do with anything, but what about the boys? I mean, do you just
So
like?
So the boys, I towel dry their hair, but I'm not real rough with it. So it's, more of a gentle. When I was younger and I towel dried my own hair, I could see the difference of my own hair coming out with the amount of pressure I used. So when you use a lighter pressure, it's less damaging to the hair for sure. Especially if because we normally all lose hair. I mean, it's normal to lose hair. The hair rests, it grows, it dies, and it's normal to see some hair out falling, but when you're seeing a lot, you're probably being a little too aggressive, uh,
Okay.
unless there's something cooking that's causing the hair loss.
Well, I'm switching that. I used to just do it my
Yeah, that's what most people do. It's normal to
yeah.
do that because that's how we probably were taught. And then you realize, oh, that might be a little too rough.
We're all in that stage now. Our readership is 45 and up. So
Yeah.
let's say people in their 60s and 70s are assuming that once hair thinning starts, it's permanent. Are there realistic non-surgical changes someone can make that can generally improve hair health?
Yeah, so it definitely so you we were talking about the genetic factors, and in my experience that's kind of an old wives' tale that it only comes from the one side. What I'm noticing that it could be on either side. It can be 10 generations back. You don't even have to know who the person is. If they have that genetic that DNA that has that genetic cause for the hair loss, and you're the lucky recipient, that's how it goes. So those treatments that we were talking about definitely can help at the minimum to prevent future hair loss, but sometimes it might even help to bring it back a little bit. Because if the hair is in the early stage of that miniaturization phase and we get them on those preventative treatments, sometimes they're able to strengthen those up. But at the very least, we can help to keep it so they don't lose more. So I always encourage the patients if that there's that genetic factor to do your prevention for sure. But the tips that we talked about are also very helpful. Those little things make a big difference. Water filters. One of the things I recommend is I don't recommend shampooing every day. I recommend using moisturizing shampoos and conditioners. I'll use my daughter as my example again. So if she's in the pool, she's always shampooed. If she's in the ocean, she's always shampooed. But if it's just a regular day, I'll just use a conditioner, a moisturizing conditioner with her. But she's conditioned. I use the conditioner daily with her, pretty much.
Interesting.
Yeah, same with the boys. I shampoo them about two, tops three times a week, but they're daily conditioned. Because they're showering two, three times a day, and you just don't need that much shampoo because it can make the hair brittle. I've seen a lot of patients that won't use conditioners at all, and the hair becomes brittle and more easy to break. So little things like the moisturizing conditioners, the not using the high heat, making sure to wash after you're in any type of chemical like a chlorine or a salt like the ocean. So a lot of those can be abrasive to the hair, and those are simple little tricks that help to make it stronger.
Thinking about hearing you talk about don't wash your hair every day. I remember as a young girl, like,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 years old, ladies used to go to the beauty parlor once a week.
Yes.
They washed
Yeah.
their hair once a week.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it.
And they're fine. And
Yeah, their hair was
and
fine.
they're fine. Yeah. So it's a myth that you have to wash your hair every day,
Yeah.
especially
Well,
if you're a clean person, and
yeah,
it's just a myth.
yeah, I agree. So we only have a couple more minutes, and I want to kind of direct our readers, like, what kind of doctor are you? What should they look for in their community? Are you taking patients? I mean, give us the whole availability and
Sure.
search and rescue.
All right. So I am a hair transplant surgeon. That's all I do. It's all I've ever done. I've done it going on now. I'm on my 29th year, going on my 30th year. I was given the wonderful honor of, I was chosen as the world's greatest hair transplant surgeon by the world's greatest television show. That's why I get to do all this fun media now. And so that's
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying doing the media. It's been a lot of fun. And so, but that's all I do. So I've only done hair. It's that's my wheelhouse, really, is the best way to say it. And I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And my website name is greathairtransplants.com. And we're definitely taking patients for sure.
Okay, great. Well, I think it's interesting that you make your livelihood doing surgery, but you're so generous with information about how to prevent it. That's pretty rare, Dr. Brett, you know?
Thank you so much. You know, I had a patient in here last week. He was a young man. He came into my office when he was 16 with his dad, and he wanted the surgery, and I said, yes, we can do it, but why don't we try to see if we can get you on these preventive treatments and do a watch and wait. And then he came back every year and checked in, and now he was 20 and he's like, now I want to do the surgery. And the dad's like, I'm so appreciative of the way you handled my son, and you weren't pushing for the surgery. I said, I do what I would do for my own family, and I approach it that way, and that's
I
how
love
I try. If I can avoid to someone's surgery, that's my first choice for them. I try to keep them out of surgery. That's the way I do it the way I do. I move as much hair as I can to limit how many times the patients have to have surgery. So I get them on the preventive treatments, and I try to limit the number of surgeries they have to have. So that's my approach.
I think that's truly, truly admirable. And I really do appreciate everything that you've said. And
Thank you.
um, as we wrap up, I just want to give you one more opportunity. If there's anything you would like to share with our readers and then we'll just wrap it up from there.
Well, the only other thing I would share is my dad is a obstetrician gynecologist, has been in practice, was in practice for over 50 years, and he's the one who instilled these beliefs into me as, about what being a doctor is, and it's about treating the patient and getting a result. It's not, you're not focusing on trying to take their money. We're trying to heal the patient. So that's the only other thing I'd add to that. And I want to thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been my pleasure. And I know our readers are going to get a lot of joy listening to what you've had to say. So thank you so much and
Thank,
keep doing your good work.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Bye bye.